Well, I promised that I would come and talk about apologies and apologizing. So I'm going to do that kind of briefly because we could talk and talk and talk about that. It's that important to relationships. I did a previous live stream just the other day on being right or being rich, right? In other words, if you have to be right all the time, then your relationships, you won't be rich in relationships because none of us is right all the time. And none of us really sees the same thing in the same way because we bring our history, we bring our temperament, we bring our responsibility level, we bring our emotional intelligence to everything that we do in interacting with people. And so apologizing becomes a really important skill, relationship skill. It is a people skill. It is super important to be able to apologize when we know that we've offended or we know that we've done something that wasn't at our best or just plain wasn't okay. It's important. It's important that we apologize. And so there is a book by Dr. Gary Chapman who wrote The Five Love Languages. He also wrote The Five Languages of Apology. It wasn't really my favorite book, interestingly enough. It almost got very complicated, I thought. Just offer an apology. But I have learned over time that what he teaches in that book is very pertinent to most people's relationships. Not everybody hears an apology in the same way. Some people, it needs to be phrased in a certain way. And some people, you can't just apologize. You have to actually do better, or you have to make amends, right? But if you've ever been in a relationship with someone who literally never apologizes, even though they have extreme behavior, they don't ever apologize. They just kind of like maybe suck it up and get back on track, not realizing the fallout, the emotional fallout of whatever it is that they did. And when they don't apologize, when someone doesn't apologize, it means they haven't really accepted responsibility for whatever it is. Now, I'm quick now to apologize. I'm not sure I always was quick to apologize, but I am quick to apologize because I operate from the perspective that I am, people say, 100% responsible for a relationship. My closest relationships, I practice 200% responsibility. The 100 for them, the 100 for me. There's times when someone has to just carry the relationship and step up and be willing to be absolutely what I call 200% responsible. I had someone I coached once say that I said 1,000,000% responsible. And that could be very true because once you hit that 100% responsibility for a relationship, you automatically go to the 200% and beyond. You'll be 1,000,000% responsible. When you hit that point in your life where you're just understand that really all responsibility begins and ends with you, what the other person does is what they do. And if you want to have a really abundant life filled with relationships that are highly prosperous, and what I mean by that is they're if you imagine like your bank account is full of money, right? You feel prosperity when your bank accounts are just full of money, right? Money's constantly flowing in. Well, transfer that to a relationship. So to have prosperous relationships, it's full of love. It's full of understanding. It's full of attention. It's full of great memories. It's full of magic being made, right? And so all relationships will run into hiccups, though, and hiccups don't have to be mushroom clouds. Hiccups can just be hiccups, but the faster that someone steps in and takes responsibility and apologizes, the more abundant and full of prosperity, of relationship prosperity, that relationship will be. When you hit that point that you are operating from being responsible all the time, it's not hard to apologize. Apologizing doesn't mean that you've always done something wrong, but it does mean that even if you did everything, quote, right, you were not fully understood by the other person. And if their feelings matter, if you're going to have a relationship with someone, then their feelings need to matter. I see a lot in couple relationships, a lot of past coaching by media, where, well, it's my way or the highway. Well, that's great. Expect to spend a lot of time with people heading to the highway. We may have a my way or the highway temperament. You don't have a lot of fulfilling relationships around you. Develop the skill of apology. Read books on apologizing. The one by Gary Chapman is a very good place to start. And then eventually, by practicing it like anything, first it's a science of understanding what constitutes an apology, how people hear apology. You don't necessarily all hear it in the same way, which is what the point of his book was. But it becomes an art. Science eventually becomes art, because once you understand the science of anything and you consistently apply it, you validate the information and you have the baseline of, quote, the rules of the science of it. Now you can create within it, and apology becomes artful. It becomes art. You learn more about people and how they best receive an apology, and nurture your relationships. Nurture your relationships. The happiest, healthiest people have the best relationships, and they have learned to practice a higher emotional intelligence, which means they don't necessarily lash back, so they don't have to apologize as often, but they're willing to apologize for whatever the misunderstanding is. They take responsibility, which opens up the door then for the other person to step in and take responsibility as well. And again, 200% responsibility, I think, is the name of the game.